Come and listen to a radio station where the mighty hosts of the heavens.
Good morning, everybody. This is Mel Jackson, and welcome to the first program of Gospel Time with Mel Jackson. My purpose here is to play some songs for you, some of the good old gospel songs, but not only that, but I'd like to take the opportunity to give you the background on some of these songs. In the future, if you have a particular song you'd like for me to play or to research or to talk about, feel free to message me on Facebook, Mel Jackson, and I'd be more than happy to communicate with you on that. I'd like to start out with a song called Peace in the Valley, but before I do so, I wanted to tell you about the author. His name was Thomas A. Dewey. He was born in a home of a black minister in Villa Rica, Georgia, a small town just 38 miles south of Atlanta. His mother was a music teacher, and she taught him to play the piano as a young child. He became interested in the world of jazz music. At the age of 17, he moved to Gary, Indiana, and could be found performing in establishments on the south side of Chicago. Thomas was torn between the blues music and his Christian training. The stress was so intense, he suffered a nervous breakdown. It took him 2 years to recover from it. During that time, he had become a member of the Pilgrim Baptist Church in Chicago and began to play a major role in directing the music of the church. Thomas wrote hundreds of songs, some of which were recorded by notable singers such as Red Foley, Connie Francis, Aretha Franklin, B.B. King, Jim Reeves, Roy Rogers, and even Tennessee Ernie Ford. In fact, the song I want to play for you features Tennessee Ernie Ford. Dorsey said of writing Peace in the Valley, it was just before Adolf Hitler sent his war chariots into Western Europe in the late 1930s. He said, I was on a train going through southern Indiana and saw horses, cows, and sheep all grazing together in the little valley. Everything seemed so peaceful. It made me question, what's the matter with mankind? Why can't men live together in peace? Out of those thoughts, he came up with the song of Peace in the Valley. He later said that he wrote the song for the famed Mel Jackson, known as the Queen of Gospel. It has become extremely popular in America and far beyond our borders. Well, it's become famous all over the world, really, Peace in the Valley. I've sang it myself at several funerals, but it's not just a funeral song. It's a good, wonderful song. It was said that President Lyndon B. Johnson, before his death, requested that the song be sung at his funeral. And he chose Anita Bryant. You remember Anita Bryant, the orange juice lady back in the 60s? She was chosen to sing in Peace in the Valley at LBJ's funeral. Oh, well, I'm tired and so weary, but I must go along. It's a beautiful song. I want to turn to Tennessee Ernie Ford and let him sing it for you. I looked at different artists last night, decide who to choose, and I think Tennessee's got the best arrangement that I've ever seen. So here it is, Peace in the Valley by Tennessee Ernie Ford.
I am tired and so weary, but I must go along till the Lord comes and calls me away. Oh, yes. Where the morning's so bright and the Lamb is the light, and the night is as fair as the day. Oh, yes, there will be peace in the valley for me someday. There will be peace in the valley for me. Oh, Lord, I pray there'll be no sorrow, no sadness, trouble I see. There'll be peace in the valley for me. Well, the bear will be gentle, and the wolf will be tame, and the lion shall lay down by the Lamb. Oh, yes. And the beasts of the wild shall be led by a child, and I'll be changed from this creature, Lord, that I am. Oh, yes, there will be peace in the valley for me someday. There will be peace in the valley for me. Oh, Lord, I pray there'll be no sorrow, no sadness, trouble I there'll be peace in the valley for me.
Oh, that was beautiful. Tennessee Ernie Ford singing Peace in the Valley. You know, I could listen to that song over and over again. Well, actually, I did listen to it over and over again last night when I was choosing it or trying to decide which artist I wanted to pick to do that. And by far, Tennessee Ernie Ford. I remember Tennessee Ernie Ford when I was a little boy. I think back in like 1958 when I was 8, he had a variety show on daytime TV. He used to have people like Dinah Shore, Gordon McCrae come and sing with him, and Mel Jackson used to be on. Oh, what a great show. I truly miss Tennessee Ernie Ford. Well, let's get back to Thomas Dorsey. He was the author of Peace in the Valley. Now, Thomas Dorsey was born in 1899, and he just died in 1993. Sadly, I didn't even know who he was back in 1993. It's just been within the last couple of years that I became familiar with his story and realized that he had written Peace in the Valley. And he also wrote he wrote many songs. I'd like to tell you about this one. Thomas loved music, of course, and at an early age got his education at Chicago College of Composition and Arranging. He was playing piano in a vaudeville act. After college, he frequently frequented jazz clubs, gaining quite a reputation as the very talented, they called him Georgia Tom. And in 1921, at the age of 22, Thomas gave his life to Jesus. Almost immediately, he left the jazz clubs and began writing gospel music. In 1932, while leading a church service, a man came up to the platform and handed a telegram to Thomas. His wife had just died in childbirth, and within 24 hours, the newborn baby also died. Thomas quickly spiraled downhill into the depths of despair, and he doubted the goodness of God and determined never to write another hymn. A week after that horrible thing had happened, Thomas was deep into his grief, sitting alone at the piano in a friend's room, or a friend's music room. Into the room came a heavy peace, such as he had never known before. As that peace enveloped him, Thomas felt the urge to play the piano. His fingers found the familiar melody, and the words to Precious Lord, Take My Hand, began to well up in his heart and spill out of his mouth. God had given him a song that would not only lift him out of despair, but would also change the course of his musical career. Precious Lord, Take My Hand. It's been translated into 40 languages and has been sung by many people, including Mel Jackson. Elvis sang it. Dr. Martin Luther King, that was his favorite hymn. Reverend Thomas Dewey went on to write many more hymns, including the famous Peace in the Valley, which was recorded by the Sunshine Boys in 1951. They're the ones that made it famous, Peace in the Valley, that is. It became the first gospel song recorded in history to sell more than 1 million copies. The 41st chapter of Isaiah says, I, the Lord thy God, will hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, Fear not, I will help thee. I'm going to turn to Tennessee Ernie Ford again to sing this one for us. Precious Lord, take my hand.
Take my hand. groweth drear. Precious Lord, linger near when my life is almost gone. Hear my cry, hear my call, hold my hand, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home.
Well, thank you, Tennessee Ernie Ford. You know, I've always been a fan of Tennessee Ernie Ford. If you remember back in the 60s, he was on Hee Haw, and sometimes they'd have a trio or a quartet, and they would sing, and he would sing the bass part. But you know, I never really knew if Tennessee Ernie Ford was he's definitely a baritone. He had bass qualities, but he was normally the bass singer isn't a soloist. Well, Tennessee Ernie Ford was always a soloist, so I don't know if he was a true bass or what he was. Whatever he was, he had a wonderful voice, and there's an interesting story about Tennessee Ernie Ford, but we can get into that at some other time. I know everybody has heard the song of Amazing Grace. We've heard it many, many, many times. I mean, it's the go-to song of all time for funerals and everything, being sung at funerals. But the story behind Amazing Grace is an amazing story. Amazing Grace was written by an Englishman who in the early part of his life was an outspoken atheist, a libertine, and a slave trader. His name was John Newton. He was born in London in 1725, the son of a Puritan mother, and a stern ship commander was his father. And his father used to take him to sea even at the age of 11. And John Newton said of his father, "I am persuaded that he loved me, but he seemed not willing that I should know it." That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Isn't that kind of typical of some fathers we know about? I think about the father that I knew for about 5 years when I was a kid. That's how it was there with me. By 1745, Newton was established as a slave trader, running captured slaves from Africa to, ironically, Charleston, South Carolina. After he rode out a storm at sea in 1748, he found his faith. He was ordained an Anglican priest in 1764 and became an important voice in the English established abolitionist movement. So he was a slave trader and then became an abolitionist. At that time, he wrote the autobiography Amazing Grace, along with 280 other hymns. Imagine that. Today, Amazing Grace is beloved by presidents and citizens alike and remains the go-to hymn at American funerals because of its striking melodies and ever-popular narrative of personal redemption. It's a beautiful song. I like to listen to Andre Rayu, and at the end of many of their shows, they do Amazing Grace on the bagpipe. And, of course, you know, how many times have you heard Amazing Grace played on the bagpipe? I know they did it at my mother's funeral. For this song, the singer, I would like to turn to Dr. Ronan Tynan, who sang this song at President Ronald Reagan's funeral. And Tynan is one of what they call the three Irish tenors. And what a wonderful thing they chose us. He does a great job at it. In fact, his rendition of Amazing Grace is one of my favorites because of its purity. So here we go, Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Wow, thank you, Ronan Tynan, one of the three, not Italian tenors, but the three Irish tenors. And that was at Ronald Reagan's funeral. I watched that on TV. I watched it live, and that was beautiful. I enjoyed it then as much as I do now. Amazing Grace. You know, I'm particular when it comes to who sings Amazing Grace and how it's sung. You know, that's one of those songs that is sung a lot, just like the national anthem. You know, how many times have you heard the national anthem? Of course, you know, Whitney Houston does a wonderful job at it. A lot of people try to do it like Whitney Houston, and they don't have the vocal apparatus to do it. It just doesn't come out the same. So I tend to like things in its pure state. Now, if you can be ornamental with your voice, that's good. But I think some people would be just as well off sing it the way it's written. Amazing Grace is one of those beautiful songs. Well, I tell you what, my time is coming to close. I hope you enjoy this show. If you want to communicate with me, I'm on Facebook. Send me a message. Let me know if there's a song you want to talk about, to research, to play. There's certainly many, many, many hymns out there that lends themselves to it. If you're enjoying it, I'm enjoying it much more than you are, because I get to research these songs, and I get to choose who's going to play them. So anyway, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. WFLN 1480, the Arcadia's only radio station. I'm going to sign off. See you next week at 8:30 to 9 o'clock next Sunday morning, okay? We'll see you then. Bye-bye.